Okay, this is plotting in AutoCAD part 1. Now, I've got a drawing open here. It's got some parcels in it, and it's drawn in model space, of course, at full scale at 1 to 1. I'm going to try plotting that out now at an A0 size sheet at a scale of 1 to 500. So the first thing I'm going to do is click one of the layout tabs. And I'm going to want to make sure that I can see my paper background and my margins as well. The margins are these dashed lines. You need to see those because nothing plots outside of those dashed lines. Now, if you can't see those, you can right click on your screen and go into your AutoCAD options, click the display tab, and make sure that display layout and model tabs is turned on. Make sure that display printable area is turned on, and make sure that display paper background is back on. And I would recommend checking the colors as well, setting the sheet layout on the context side, and making sure that that background color is white in your layout, because you will be plotting on a white piece of paper. So it only makes sense to make sure that your background is also white so that you can get a correct representation of what's going to come off of the plotter. Once you've got that set up, before you create any viewports, you need to set up the sheet size and where it's going to plot to. If you don't do that first, you'll be forced to do that later and reconfigure your viewport afterwards. So always set up your sheet first before you do anything else. And I'm going to do that by right-clicking on the layout that I'm concerned with. And I'm going to go to the Page Setup Manager. I'm going to make sure I have my correct layout clicked and select Modify. From there, I'm going to select the device that I'm going to plot to, and whether you want to plot to a hard copy plotter or a digital plotter, that's your choice. It all works exactly the same. I'm going to just choose to plot to a DWF digital plot. I'm going to select a paper size of an A0 size sheet. So I'm going to scroll through till I find an ISO A0 size sheet. And lastly, I'm going to make sure that my units are always set accordingly in my plot scale. So you want to make sure that you're plotting always at 1 to 1. If your model space units are in feet, if your design is drawn in feet, then you might want to switch this to inches, just in the conversion factor for figuring out your viewport scale would be easier that way. In my case, my design's in metric. My model space units are in meters. I'm going to leave that at millimeters, and that'll make it easier for you to figure out your viewport scale. Okay, so those are the two most important things: your printer plotter device that you're plotting to and your paper size. And make sure that your plot scale is always at 1 to 1. Then click OK, and the size of your sheet's going to change. Now the next step is to create the viewport. So we can type in viewport if we want. There's a number of different ways. You can go to the View tab as well on your ribbon and create a new viewport if you like. It all works the exact same way. I'm going to create a single viewport, just one single viewport. Click OK, and it asks me for my first and second corner. So you can pick 2 points, or if you just hit enter, it'll force the viewport to the extents of your margins. That might not be the best option. If you have a title block in there, you might need to pick the corners of the viewport to fit inside the title block. In my case, I just want to maximize out my sheet size, so I'm just going to hit enter to create my viewport. Alright, in the next step, we will talk about how to scale the viewport. To do that, I'm going to want to make sure that I have my viewports toolbar up. It sometimes makes it a little easier. To bring up your viewport toolbar, you can click the View tab on your menu, and then over on the right hand side you have toolbars. I'm going to hit that drop down. I'm going to go to AutoCAD, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom to where it says viewports, and that'll bring up my viewport toolbar. You can also bring that up by finding a empty area where there's no toolbar, right click AutoCAD, and then browse down to your viewport toolbar. Okay. Also, just as a side note, you can rename these viewports. So if I right click on that, rename the layout. If I right click on the layout, I can go rename, call it ISO A1 or whatever else you may choose to call that viewport. Another thing, switching back and forth from paper to model space. If I'm in paper space, I will see paper down at the bottom on my status bar. If I click inside that viewport and activate that viewport, that button changes to model space. Now, essentially, I'm in model space. Any line works or entities that I create will be drawn in model space. Okay, so you can double click outside to that viewport to go back into paper space, double click inside it to activate the viewport and go into a model view. So check out part 2 for how to scale that viewport. My next step is to scale it at a scale of 1 to 500. All right, thank you.